So I told you guys that I would tell you how to find what our backup plan was for graphing. The example I'm using isn't quite, you could use your calculator for, but I wanted you to have an example that didn't look crazy. I'm going to be honest with you. This is the example I started to use, and I got all these weird fractions, and I thought that would scare you. So I wanted to give you something that was still had manageable numbers. Okay? So when both equations in a system are in slope-intercept form, we solve by graphing. So remember we talked about how we use a shovel, or we use a backhoe, or we use a spoon. Shovel when we're digging a hole in the backyard, a backhoe when we're digging a ditch, a spoon when we're digging into some ice cream. We use the right tool for the right purposes. Well, when our equations are in slope-intercept form, we solve by graphing, which means we solve by using our calculator, okay? So if I have, two equations in slope-intercept form, I'm going to put them in my calculator. I'm going to put the left side, I'm going to put the first one in y1, the second one in y2, and then I'm going to look at the graph and I'm going to see where they cross. If I can figure it out from the graph, I'll use that. I always like to use my table as a backup because the table tells me really easily what the answer is. Now, sometimes I can't find the answer on the table, or when I look at the graph, it looks crazy and I'm not sure. So our backup plan is going to be to use a strategy called setting equal. Okay, so what we do, here are the steps for setting equal. Okay, so the first thing we do is we write a new equation. Okay, so we're going to use this one that I was just using. So my two equations are y equals 4x minus 11 and y equals 2x minus 5. Okay, so when I have those two equations, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write an equation, a new equation, where the mx plus b parts of the equation are set equal to each other. So what that means is I'm going to take this and this, I'm going to make them equal. And in class tomorrow, I'll explain to you why that is. Okay, now that I've got them set equal, I'm going to solve to find the value of x. So I'm simply going to do what I would normally do. I'm going to get the x on the left, the y's on the numbers on the right, and solve for 1. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. I get 2x minus 11 equals negative 5. Add 11 to both sides. I get 2x equals 6. Divide both sides by 2, and I get x equals 3. Okay, so now that I know that x equals 3, remember my solution is a coordinate. It's an ordered pair. It's an x and a y combination. So now I have to I need to substitute that value of x back into one of my original equations. So I'm going to start with this first one. Y equals 4x minus 11. And I'm going to substitute this in for x to figure out what y is. So y equals 4 times 3 minus 11, which is 12 minus 11, which means y is 1. So right now, I think x is 3 and y is 1. But I like to be right. So I'm going to take really quickly, I'm going to take just a moment. I'm going to use my remaining equation, y equals 2x minus 5, and I'm going to substitute both this x and y value in to see if I get a true statement. If I do, then that means that I've done my math correctly. So I have y equals 2x plus 5, so y is 1 equals 2 times x, which is 3 minus 5. Well, 2 times 3 is 6. 6 minus 5 is 1. Does 1 equal 1? It sure does. So I've done it correctly. My final step is going to be to write this as an ordered pair. My x is 3, my y is 1. So my final answer is 3, 1. And that will be the final solution to this problem. Now again, for this problem, that's what I saw on the table too, 3, 1, 1. But remember, we don't always, sometimes we may not be able to do it that way. Like for example, I gave you an example of what if they give you a graph that looks like this, and they say, hey, what's the solution? Well, the graph doesn't go that far. So I can't use this graph to find the solution because I don't have enough graph. But if I have the equations that they gave me, I can just set them equal and solve. Okay? We will practice this tomorrow in class.